I'll do it later. Here we go. Now we're recording. Okay, we're going to try to make a Neko, N-E-K-O, or something to that nature. Found this bobcat picture and scanned it, and then did some adjustment to the color so that it was more true to the original. And now I found this image. Ideally, I would want to just take a photograph of someone myself, so that it's mine, you know, that it's totally my concept of my art, and I'm not stealing somebody else's art. But okay, so wild animals are a little bit harder, but I went through print source rather than the online source. I think you have a lot more options going through really high quality books and prints of wild animals. And I'm going to use this girl here, but the faces aren't lining up exactly. This is also a much higher resolution image, so you can see. So I'll pull that over here, and then we're going to, I'm going to try, I'm thinking here, sorry, it just takes a minute for me to, I'm going to duplicate the layer so that I don't ruin the original and work with that. You always want to use, when you're doing anything with images, as much as possible, use indestructive or non-destructive editing. I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger. It's not a very big image. Usually my rule of thumb is that it always is over 1,000 pixels for reference. For some reason, we didn't have a lot of options in finding, we were just finding a random girl, and I think she might match up with the face, the quality of the look of the face. So that's why I decided to go ahead and go with this one girl. And I want to add a little more space to the bottom because I'm going to try rotating her face to be a little more lined up. The lighting is a little flat on the girl and a little bit ambient on the animal. There's not any strong shadows, which is also not totally ideal because I believe that it would be nice to have a stronger lighting source. And you can see that the image of the girl is much smaller than the animal. So just for kicks, we're going to try just to line this up and just see how it looks. But I'm not going to leave it there. I just want to take a look at it. And we'll drop the opacity on the layer down a bit. We line up her eyes. Could get something interesting here. Okay. I think that'll work. And I'm going to do something along the lines of this. Of course, we could do this all via digital too, and just mask, you know, we could do a digital painting instead, but I think that it's going to be a lot more, darn it, a lot more interesting to do this as a drawing, but I wanted to see how we might line up the face. All right, so that's my gathering of reference material. That's as far as I'm going to go with that. Turn it down a little bit. And turn back on my camera as soon as I get this set. And to me, it would be just way too easy to just do it digitally. And then, of course, you just have a digital image, a digital painting, which could be fun for some things, but it's really, that's just, you know, Photoshop manipulation. And that's not what, of course, that's not what this is all about. What we're trying to do here is learn to draw. And the idea of using assorted or multiple references in order to create a new piece of art, altogether new piece of art, is much more exciting than fiddling around with Photoshop. Well, that could be satisfying too. It's not what we're going to do. Okay. Now, the bobcat is pretty, it's on a yellow background, but it's kind of a grayish creature. So I'm going to go ahead and, as is my usual technique, is use a toned paper for the background. I find that much more interesting. It's kind of a soft gray I can use. I could go with a dark blue. That could be another option. And I think I'm going to try it on this. If it doesn't work, I could try it again on the darker color. Let's see what happens. Now, I've not really done this before, so this is definitely going to be completely experimental, and we'll see how this goes. I'm going to start with, I want to start with the animals outline. I just like the way that the head is formed, the bobcat's head. Oh, I should send you guys, let me pause the recording for a second. Oh, I can't. Okay. So I'm going to start with the bobcat's head, because we were looking at the copies of Neko creatures, and they were mostly ears and tail seem to be the main focus of the combination of creatures. I'm going to go ahead and give it front paws. No, maybe not. Stop right there. I like the bobcat's face in that it has similar human proportions, unlike the tigers and the panthers that we were looking at, which had much longer muzzles. The bobcat has a shorter muzzle, so its eyes seem to be falling about the midway on the face, which is good for our purposes. So I'm going to drop the line down from the ears. And it looks to me like if you took a line from the ears down the face, you get right about to the eyeballs. The lighting matches up pretty well with these two images, and that's definitely something you want to be looking for when you're trying to merge reference materials. You want to make sure that your images are similar lighting, similar eye level. We're looking at them both pretty much straight on, so that helps the references to work together. Make your ears a little bigger. I really like these mutton chops, which is going to look really interesting on a girl face. But I like them nevertheless. I want to try to emulate the sample that we saw in the William Magnan book of merging the two references. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch in the rest of the face. But now I want to try to incorporate the girl's face too. So she's got a squarish jaw. So I can imagine that the mutton chops are still, could just be part of her hair maybe. It could be kind of cool. I don't know. Making this up as I go along, it's kind of scary. It's always scary to work outside your comfort zone. I feel like I'm definitely working outside of my comfort zone on this one. I'm going to try to merge in some of the girls' facial features. I don't know what I'm going to do with the nose yet. I don't think I want to give her a hair lift necessarily. She's got a nice little smile, but she's not smiling very big. I remember the stuff we talked about with the mouth yesterday. We can actually take that to the next level. And because I think, in looking at the reference now, she's rather tight-lipped look to her. And I may want to soften that a little bit. We're a little long in the nose, but the cat's long in the nose. So do I balance? You can't say comme ça. You're going to do a more human nose. I'm going to do a more animal nose. Decisions that you'll have to make when you're actually creating a composite creature. And I am going to pull the nose up a little bit and keep more of the cat on the top and human on the bottom. I feel like the island of Dr. Moreau. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie or watched the book. Of course, the book is a lot older than the movie. Just a nice square jaw, though. I think will work really, really well with this rendition. Alright, I'm going to go for, use the 4B in the charcoal, since it's a little lighter. Just hit a few of the darker areas. It's a struggle to keep the eyes wider than humans. Normally speaking, there should be an eyes distance between, if you're looking at it purely at the portrait, there should be an eyes distance between the eyes, like so. And there is here. Not so much on the side, a little less than an eye. So her eyes are a little big for her head. And if we look at the creature, say it's more than an eyes distance between their eyes. So there's some decisions to be made. And we'll try to keep the eyes a little further apart. With the animals, you don't see the whites of the eyes as much. The irises seem to take up much more. I wonder why that is. I don't know why that is. It's an evolutionary thing, I guess. You don't see the whites of the eyes of the animal. Unless they're very, very scared. You can see a horse, when a horse is really afraid, you will see the whites of its eyes. Sometimes with dogs, too. I don't think I've ever seen the whites of a cat's eyes. At least not while the eyes are still in its head. Sounds horrible, but I have that happen once. I saw a cat that hit by a car. Anyway, I'm not going to go on much from that. I'm going to bring the nose in. The animal's nose is wide, but it does come in pretty narrow. And the human's nose is pretty small. And in fact, she's got a rather tiny, delicate little nose. I wonder if she's had work done. And you can clearly see, this is interesting, you can clearly see in her nose, the cartilage is very sharp. It always makes me think of Michael Jackson, because he had so much plastic surgery done to his nose that the cartilage actually failed. Kind of sad. I'm going to straighten the cat out a little bit here because he's a little crooked. Transform tool, please. I'd like a transform tool. Why can't I get my transform tool? Okay. Do it the hard way then. Oh, I know why. Because we're on the wrong layer. This one here. There we go. Now we got it. Just want to tilt it a little bit. That way we have more lined up. Slight angle still. The advantage of the digital versus the actual. The straightness of the ears is kind of cool on the cat. This is a pretty animal. It's really a pretty animal. I'm just going to hit a few of the more prominent features of the cat. I don't know whether to give her a hair lip or not. So, I mean, hair lip, but you know, the cat, the way the cat's upper lip is formed, it doesn't join together the same way. Decisions, these are all decisions that you personally will make when you're doing your version of it. I am only doing my version of it, and I'm going to take some liberties. I'm going to give her a prettier mouth, so I don't think her mouth is very pretty. Going with what we were talking about at the last demonstration I did when we were focusing a lot on the eyes and the mouth and how to draw those. I'm going to give her a fuller and more feminine mouth. So in this case, our reference really is just reference and kind of like a jumping off point. So even though, yeah, we're creating a new character, almost, you know, an unheard of character in a way, we still want to use the reference to help accentuate and to make our character look as realistic as possible. And we're not just pulling things randomly out of our heads that may not have a basis in, or may not come across as realistic. I suppose after many years of doing characters like this, you might actually be able to just go straight out of your head. But I think even with doing that, one is going to want a little bit of reference just to add that extra boost of realism. At least that's my take on it. At some point later, we could stylize it into a more of an anime based or more of a, I don't know, there's other styles besides anime. Fashion model, I guess. There's that style. There's the heroic style. There's, you know, like superheroes and whatnot. So I don't know if bobcats have slitted eyes or not. And I can't tell from the reference if they do. I would have to go and look it up in Wikipedia. So remember what we were doing when we were talking about the poochie bits around her, around the mouth, and I really don't see that happening with our model here, but I'm going to equalize it anyway. And I'm going to say the light's coming generally from slightly to the right, so that'll put my shadows, because it looks like there's a little bit more shadow on the left of her nose, our left. That will put a little more shadow on our left of the mouth. Since I'm not going for an absolute likeness of the model, I have just a little bit more freedom. There's a bit of a shadow on this side of her neck. You can take into consideration. Chin overlaps the cheeks a little bit, so I want to pull on that knowledge to try to bring the chin a little forward of the face. Then we get lost in the fur, which is cool. So the word on the street is that bobcats do not have slitted eyes. They have round, not slitted pupils. They're round pupils. So good to know. Don't worry too much about it. It can't be helped, but it's looking to me like an Alaskan or Canadian. Well, I think this is a Canadian bobcat now that I think about it. Maybe that's the illusion that I'm feeling here. Canadian look. I did kind of shorten up the nose a bit. I wish I'd left it a little longer. But it is what it is at this point. It's all an experiment. You get just a little more aggressive with the white on the white colored paper. I'm getting confused as to what part is human and what part is animal now. That's pretty funny. I don't think I want hair scarring off her chin. I think that'll make her look too masculine. The eyes are looking a little creepy to me. I'm not sure I'm liking it. See if I can make it look a little less creepy. One of the ways to make eyes look a little less creepy is to make the pupils a little bit bigger, a little darker. And we'll shade in the tops a little bit. And we'll tuck in the shadows. Maybe a look, maybe a lot. Still really glassy-eyed. Not with the human look to it. Maybe the whites of the eyes make all the difference. An interesting experiment. I don't think my experiment is very successful, honestly. Maybe I should have kept human eyes and not animal eyes. And I don't know, what do you guys think? It's interesting. I don't know. It's not done yet, so I shouldn't be too quick to judge. Give it a little more hair. Also, I'm not a big fan of working on this colored paper, this lightly colored paper, so that may kind of affect my opinion of it. I think I made her chin just a little too big. That's probably the biggest problem. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Let's see if you can do a better job than I did on this. Try to get her eyes to be a little more even, and I'm not feeling it.
This looks pretty cool, actually.
You like it? How's yours turning out? Are you drawing it too?
I'm kind of drawing the cat more.
Yeah, less the human.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to mix the two.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really struggling and fighting with it a lot, and it's interesting. I may experiment with it
Mm-hmm.
since I'm not super pleased with the way it's coming out. I may experiment more with doing some shadowing to it to try to manipulate, doing some more blending to kind of manipulate the depth of it because I feel like it's really flat.
Yeah,
The face
yeah.
is a little pushed in, and I want it to come out
Mm-hmm. I'm
more.
just wondering if the eyes shouldn't have been more human
That's
than
what I'm
cat.
doing. I was thinking that it would have been more human rather than cat-like instead of,
Yeah,
and then maybe pushing them. But I really like the way the cat's eyes were, but
yeah, yeah. I'm kidding.
they're not working with the nose.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the contrast is just a bit too much.
So, well, I could try putting more of a cat-like nose on it and just leaving a human mouth. I don't know.
Yeah,
I could give it a go and see how that works.
or
So,
maybe once you add the mustaches, it's gonna like pop out more maybe and blend more together.
yeah. So the cat nose has a more of a fur thing going across the top of it here, although it's shorter. This cat nose is too
Hmm.
short because I made that decision purposefully to bring up the nose. And
Yeah.
now that I've gone this far, I'm not sure I can lower the mouth, but I can try. See what happens. It's all, like I said, this is experimental. And
Hmm.
since I didn't do it in ink, um, not a complete loss. So we'll bring down the mouth to about here.
Hmm.
We should bring the nose down a little here. She tilts the head forward a little bit, maybe. Whereas the girl's head is more tilted back. The animal's head is more tilted down. So we might be able to, I don't know, it's like when I do face painting for little kids and I put cat nose on them. Um, that always makes a huge difference when you add that cattish face. But I'm gonna try to use the human mouth still.
Hmm.
Still use a human mouth.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Just bringing down the nose a little bit might. I don't know, I still feel like I'm doing the island of Dr. Moreau here.
Mhm. Oh, is Jennifer not here with us anymore?
I guess you and I are the only ones left.
Uh,
You win some, you lose some.
oh well.
Yeah, so.
I'm guessing the time is not very, very adequate for everyone, since it's probably in the middle of the day for you, right?
Sometimes there's quite a crowd, and sometimes not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this to a point where I can stop the recording and then I feel like I can talk normal. I'm not a big fan of recording stuff, but that's a given.
Well, it's good, for other people to be able to see it and
Yeah,
just kind of get an idea of how to do something like that.
it was very tempting to just do the digital blend instead of try to draw it. That was kind of a struggle for me to prevent myself from just going with the digital version.
Well, it is easier, right?
Yeah, it is easier. It's a lot easier. So, okay, so a little more of a human mouth on that. I stretched it out a little bit. I still get this sense of the Alaskan Native American feel to it. It's interesting. I guess I studied Native American art when I was in college, and there was a lot of, they do masks and things as
Oh, I see.
part of their art form, and so it feels like that since it's a mask, Native American.
Hmm. I wonder if there's a way to blend the features together, so that it doesn't look like a mask anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure it has something to do with working, how do you work between the fur and the skin? I guess you'd have to have a certain amount of fur sprouting from the skin at a certain point.
Yeah. For some reason, I believe that this would work much better if it would be in color, because then you can actually work with the skin tone and the fur matching, kind of.
Yeah.
And then I think it would help blend the features better in an optical illusion,
Yeah.
basically.
I didn't want to get into the idea of using color because I felt like I haven't been super successful with that lately.
Oh
So,
yeah, no worries. It was
so
just like a suggestion or an idea.
if I was doing like a watercolor
Mm-hmm.
version of it, it might be more of it would be different at any rate.
Mm-hmm. Would it be weird if you added lashes?
I'm not sure. Good question. I think
Because that would maybe add a bit more human features.
certainly the cat has white lashes.
Yeah, but you can't really see those that well.
Right. So maybe dropping the shadow of
Mm-hmm.
to push the eyes back into the head a little bit more. It's so interesting when you think about manipulating the surface
Mhm.
of the. You see, you can't. It's really hard to put white over black. So yeah, it's interesting. And the fact that on the animal that there's a broad highlight, maybe I shouldn't go with that. Maybe I should make it more of a round highlight like you would see on a human eye.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's better. I think that broad highlight was kind of doing something strange to the sensibility of the eye. That's a little more welcoming.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, they do look more human now. At least that's just my impression.
No, I think that's very true. They do look more human. That white is not coming white because it's on top of black, which is a major no-no. So the only way to fix that is to erase it down to the paper and get the black out of there.
Mhm.
You can't put white chocolate over black. I could do it with paint, but I can make that eye match up the other eye a little bit better now. So almost like I give up looking at the. After a while, you almost have to give up looking at the reference at all.
Then just kind of go by feeling, basically.
Go by your gut and by what you can see. But the reference is a good base.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
You know what I think the problem is?
Hmm.
I think it's that because of the fur on the sides of her face,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it kind of looks that her skull is not so human. It's more cat-like, which would be wider in where the cheekbones are.
Right. So small. She looks a little small brained.
Yeah, a little bit.
So maybe I can bring more fur out to widen the head a little bit. I might have to
Yeah.
bring up the bottoms of the ears.
Hmm.
I'm doing more adjustments than I would normally allow. So we'll widen her skull a little bit
Mhm.
by widening her ears a little bit. And widening the fur a little bit. I probably just made the eyes too big. The bottom line. Widen the ears. A little bit more brain space on the brain case.
Pretty much.
Well, yeah, that is actually a super good observation because the human face only takes up, a quarter of the skull, whereas in
Yeah.
humans it's much further. One of the reasons I chose the bobcat was because it seemed to have more humanistic facial proportions, but all in all, it's still a cat and has a small brain.
Yeah, that was kind of my idea too.
Well, it certainly made her head a little bigger, I think.
Yeah, but I think it feels right, or it feels better.
More proportionate.
Yeah.
And after all, we are essentially the exercise is to create a character.
Mhm.
So we should have freedom to create and not be a slave necessarily to our reference. We're just using the reference to help accentuate
Mhm.
the results, not dictate the results, which is I still would want to do the whole thing right by taking all of my own reference so that I'm not subjected to the reference that I find, which I think a lot of people kind of give in and make do with what they find that may not be quite what they want. But if you allow yourself to create your own reference, you actually have much more control over the end result of what you're doing. Obviously, so
Yeah. True.
the ears around the ears of this cat are really interesting. They go way inside. And there's these huge tufts. Well, it's that bobcat thing, right? They have all that fur.
Mhm.
I kind of wonder what would have happened if I had gone with a darker paper. I would have been able to.
Mm,
Pencils. It would have been different.
yeah, and I don't know if it wouldn't have been harder.
I might try another version of it later, or maybe next time.
Mhm.
I wanted to do a human
Oh,
picture. I love doing the tiger. That would be a different. Well, definitely taking into account working out well, we talked about doing in the past doing the centaurs and other half human, half animal. How do you do the actual and the dragons? Remember looking up the anatomical structure of how would you add another set of limbs to what is essentially a mammal? There are no mammals with 6 limbs, so
nope.
you've got to work in that. Yeah.
Whenever I see a centaur or something like that, I keep wondering about the spine.
Yeah,
How does that even work?
yeah. I've seen some
And
pretty
how do you?
interesting skeletons that people have come up with that would,
Okay.
but it's the weight bearing thing is all different too, and the whole
Yeah, of course.
yeah, they would have to have 2 stomachs and 2 sets of lungs, really, or this maybe the body of the centaur would be a lot smaller than a horse's body because of they wouldn't need a set of lungs and an extra stomach. But then maybe the torso of the human part of the centaur would be a lot bigger,
Hmm.
so because it would have to have a larger gut. I don't know. How would you work out the organs? That's not really something.
Well,
Yeah.
if I would think about it, especially when you see centaurs in movies, they're usually these huge beings compared to humans.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that they would have to have 2 pairs of each organs because the mass of the body or the whole creature is just too big, in my opinion, to have just one set of small human lungs to oxygenate the whole body of such a creature.
True. True. And didn't they find out that dinosaurs had like an extra brain because the really big ones, the brontosaurus, they would have like sort of like you have an extra driver on the back of a hook and ladder truck, just to
Oh, I didn't know that.
just handle the lower part of it. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I don't know the specifics of it, but it kind of makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's a big creature. I guess certain parts of the brain would coordinate parts of the body, and the other brain would coordinate the other half. So, yeah, maybe.
Even in humans, there's a mass of neurons or ganglia or something at the base of the spine that handles a lot of the that's what they do the reflexes from, right? The
Mm-hmm.
reflexes are essentially the when they hit your knee at a certain point and the knee jumps, it's because
Yeah, you just can't help it. It's not something you can control.
it's not actually going all the way back up to the brain. It's only going to the spine and then back down, something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah. But I'm also wondering about the other situation regarding the heart or the hearts.
Right.
Because if it does have two hearts, then they would have to be perfectly in sync in order to pump the blood um, in a I don't know in a healthy way or
Right.
in
Instead
a
of
normal way.
like if a person has a fibrillosis where they have arrhythmia in their heart, it can really screw things up.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if one heart would be uh, pumping in one rhythm and the other heart doing the same thing but with a faster rhythm or just a different one. It's kind of like music, you know, when one set of I don't know if the drums are not in sync with the melody, then the whole song is just kind of messed up and it doesn't work in a
It becomes just
mechanical and biomechanical right way in
yeah,
that sense.
that totally makes sense. So you'd have to definitely have some kind of a synchronization between the two blood
Hmm.
flows. And then at what point does the one blood system pass off to the other blood system? You know,
Yeah, that's another question. And how do you combine the spine of a human with the spine of a horse?
right? Because the horse's spine has those big spurs off the huge spurs off the back of every vertebrae,
Hmm.
and humans don't. And then the
And
humans
at which
have a
point?
pelvis that hold up our guts. Well, would you have
Hmm.
a pelvis above the shoulder blades of the horse part? It makes no sense at all. It's fun to think
Nope.
about, but there's a very good reason why there aren't any centaurs.
Oh,
Well, I'm liking this a lot better now. I think this is turning into
yeah,
a
me too.
much better drawing.
Hmm. I
Going
like it.
switching over the noses seems to have been the key here.
Yep, I like it.
I might add in some of that rust color. I have to find the pencils to do it, but
Yeah, no, it looks good. I like it.
neat. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.